What's up, you guys? You know what it is. It's your boy Cal. And for today's video, we are going to be stepping back into the Marvel Universe to put together our version of one of the greatest teams they have. Well, I don't know if it's one of the greatest teams they have, but in my opinion, it's one of the better teams within the Marvel Universe. Now, I don't know if that's me just being biased because it's a team that's usually comprised of villains. I don't know if that's me being biased due to the fact that it's a political type of team. And y'all know that I'm a philosophical criminal justice type of person. Or maybe that's just me being biased due to the fact that it is a team that is usually connected to the X-Men mythos. But either way it goes, I think this team is great. Like I said, I think it's one of the better teams they have. And that is because today we are going to be putting together our own version of the Hellfire Club. Now, while many of you may know what the Hellfire Club is, some of you may be saying, hey, Kelvin, that seems like a pretty cool name. They're a political group of villains. What is the Hellfire Club? Who do they consist of? What is their purpose? What's their goal? What is the whole concept about? Well, don't worry, my friend, because I got you. The Hellfire Club was inspired and is based on a real life organization that was created and formed around the 18th century in England. And it's basically a group that started off as a social club for the upperclassmen of the British people. But eventually it became a group that was comprised of Marvel's most political involvers and financial holders in a way where the club's basic idea or basic purpose was to provide them with pleasantries and favors that aren't seen to be moral or civilized in the public eye. You know, things like orgies and stuff, sex parties and drug parties and different things like that. And no, that's not me saying that as a joke. That is actually what they actually were about. And outside of the whole pleasantry thing, it became a group that was meant to help the upperclassmen or these political and financial holders move political power or gain political power through their political involvement and through their financial obligations without having to worry about actually taking over with dominance and fear and stuff. So that's what the team was about. And with that being said, since they have been around since the 18th century, they have been involved in different things like wars and other type of executions and political statements, crimes and trials that's been seen throughout the times up until now. But like I said, their whole thing is to control the world through political and financial power. So they're the type of organization that is seen more to be in the shadows, that you really don't know about them unless you have access to them. Like you have someone who invites you in, or you have someone giving you information about them. You really wouldn't know about them. And because it's an organization that seems to be comprised of people who are not only elegant and high class and high profiled, but who also seem to be some of the best manipulators within the Marvel Universe. On top of them being socialites and business mongols who seem to run off of a aristocratic hierarchy. Of course, you can't just say, "Hey, I want in." No, you have to be brought in through like a vote. You have to be elected to be brought into the club. You have to be invited in, pretty much. You have to be related to somebody who has been a member or you have to buy your way in. And when you buy your way in, it can't be like some this roundabout number. Because, like I said, this is a group that is already financially capable. You got to do something that is another form of buying your way in. You got to pretty much bribe your way in, trade your way in with some type of information or some type of bargain or some type of act that they seem to think is worthy. And like I said, because that is the case, of course, with a team that is comprised of villains, you're already going to have the risk of every member on the team stabbing you in the back. But seeing that this team is consisting of people who are more worried about gaining power and their influence on the world, these people will definitely stab you in the back or whatever they have to do to raise up in the ranks and to gain more influence and more power in their stead. So yeah. But outside of that, that's what the Hellfire Club is. They're usually involved with the X-Men, and that's because the ones that really control everything are normally mutants, and they're normally a part of an inner circle called the Inner Circle. And the Inner Circle is usually composed of members who hold rankings and have duties according to their rankings. And these rankings are named after the chessboard pieces: King, Queen, Bishop, and Rook. Um, yeah. And as far as I am aware, there has been 4 different type of courts within the Hellfire Club. Usually it comprises of a white court, the white king, the white queen, the white bishop, and the white rook. And then there's also the black court, those black king, black queen, black bishop, black rook. I do believe there was a time where there was a gray king, but if there has been like other members of the Great Court, I am not aware. And within the last few years, they have added a red court in a way in the Krakoa era. And when the red court was added to the Hellfire Club, that was around the time the Hellfire Club was dealing more with the transport and manufacturing and handling of drugs on Krakoa. But the red court doesn't really have much of a say outside of that because they are a brand new concept. And like I said, I am not aware of there being more than just a great king, but yeah, that's usually what the Hellfire Club is. And when you look at the team, you have had members up there like Sebastian Shaw, Emma Frost, Celine, Magneto's been up there once, Storm has been up there once. You had uh, other non-mutant members who were human members, straight up human members, but like I said, they were more concerned about having global political power and wiping out the mutants. You have had other members up there who weren't mutant based or just worried about the mutants, like Kingpin's been up there, Hellstrom's been up there, and other characters as well. So as I said before, while they may be a team that is concerned about the mutant affairs, I see that mainly as a particular offset within the Hellfire Club. And when it comes to our own narrative devices for this video, that's how we are going to handle it. We are going to be doing the Hellfire Club by the courts. But when it comes to the mutant type of members or the mutant objective, we are going to handle that in a separate video in which I will be doing it as the Inner Circle instead of the Hellfire Club as a whole. So like I said a little while ago, while the Inner Circle is usually the part of the Hellfire Club that seems to be the most infatuated with the idea of having that hierarchy be comprised of pieces similar to that of a chessboard, there have been other members in other factions outside of the inner circle who have used the same structural ranking idea. So that is what we are going to do today for our drafting. Even if I don't decide to do the chessboard pieces thing when it comes to the inner circle video I'll make in the future, we are going to do that for our Hellfire Club videos. And like I said, I'm going to do this not as one video, but a few separate different ones in which I'll do the different courts in each video. Like I'll do the white court today. And then in the next video, I'll do the black court. And then if there is an actual gray court outside of them just having a gray king, then I'll do that. You see what I'm getting at? And because the Hellfire Club is all about them being involved within having political and financial influence all over the world, the way we are going to do this is we are going to split the two main courts between the two different hemispheres of the globe. So the white court will take care of the western side of the hemisphere, and the black court will take care of the eastern side, or vice versa. And with that being said, we are going to jump right into it. So the first thing that I forgot to mention, while there are the normal rankings of, the black king, the white king, the queens and the rooks and the bishops, there is also one other ranking that usually isn't seen in the public view or seen within the stories of the Hellfire Club, but he or she is usually the one who oversees the overall foundation and the overall doings of the Hellfire Club. And that positioning is known as the Lord Imperial. Now, when it comes to the Lord Imperial, he is basically the one that symbolizes the concept of total power. Not only that, but like I said, he's the one who organizes the Hellfire Club, and he's the one who keeps them funded. And through this funding and through the organization, that means we need somebody who is not only strategic but very wealthy as well, and can handle things such as the black market and certain crime trades and stuff. And with that being said, we also need somebody who is able to basically unite crime families and show some type of legitimacy, or can seem to have some type of legitimacy, in which he can basically show the concept of controlling the club and the rest of the world through order. So with that being said, seeing as how we are already talking about the Lord Imperial we are going to choose for the Hellfire Club is going to be the character of Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Now, I think Kingpin being the Lord Imperial is a good fit. Like I said, while Kingpin has been on the Hellfire Club before, he has usually been, if I am remembering correctly, a king. I don't remember if it was a white king or a black king, or even if it was the great king. But he has been the king. To make him the Lord Imperial, I think that is such a great idea, because not only is the Kingpin one of Marvel's greatest villains, but I think he's one of Marvel's most successful villains. Not only in the terms of popularity and a metaphysical sense, but in a way where he's one that most people do not expect as a villain, unless you are a hero or some other type of character personally dealing with him or the things he's involved with. He's seen as a philanthropist and everything. So for him to want to have the idea of running a team like this is not only a great idea for that reason in itself, but because when we see the Kingpin, More people would think of Kingpin to just have contacts or connections or him dealing with things within the New York area. But if you have read stories such as, what was it, Born Again, you will know that his contacts are spread it throughout most of America. Like, he had contacts within New Mexico. He can get, for you to be a kingpin of crime, you should be able to have your fingerprints or hands in the cookie jars of a lot of different type of things, whether it be trafficking, murder, drugs, cartels, whatever the case may be. And for you to be a philanthropist, just look at how many different type of organizations there are within the Marvel Universe for you to donate to or for you to be a part of. You can donate to AIM, Hammer, Damage Control. You can be an influential campaigner when it comes to the Daily Bugle. You can be an influential campaigner when it comes to the Sentinel program. You can deal with the Avengers if they didn't know who you were. You can donate to the X-Men if they didn't know who you were. Avengers Academy, normal regular schools, or in the cases of like Civil War, you can donate to that program in which, you know, you raise money for the kids lost or the families affected by different type of things that go on within the Marvel Universe. Not to mention all of the hospitals or programs that have to deal with rebuilding businesses and family homes in case of any type of war or attack that happens within that world. Plus, when it comes to the order through control thing, just look at what he was doing in the Devil Reigns event with him trying to ban superhero activity or superhuman activity in general or making an anti-vigilante task force. So, yeah. And with your hands in so many different types of things, of course you're going to need different people. And through those different people, they have people. And through their people, they have people. And all of this other type of networking that goes on. So yeah, it is very possible for it to spread. So what if we took that concept and spread it not just to the outreaches of New York or down to America, but throughout the entire world? Because when it comes to the Lord Imperial, like I said, while our different videos will consist of the two different courts, and the two different courts will handle the different hemispheres, the Lord Imperial oversees the entire Hellfire Club, the white side of the court and the black side of the court, as well as the other courts that may or may not be a part of it. So I think Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, as our Lord Imperial, is a superior idea. So he's going to be our Lord Imperial. And like I said, seeing as how he is the Lord Imperial and the Lord Imperial oversees the entire Hellfire Club, when I mention Lord Imperial again and mention Wilson Fisk, do not think it's me breaking my own rules or anything. Just remember that being the Lord Imperial, you oversee the whole club. So of course I will have to mention it to remind y'all who our Lord Imperial is, even when I do the other courts. So it's not me double drafting or everything. It's still the same position for the same concept. Just remember that we're taking care of the different courts today. So now that we have taken care of the role of the Lord Imperial, we can go about actually recruiting the pieces of the chessboard. And of course, that will mean that the first position that we have to go about filling is the role of the king. And when it comes to the White King is the person who, of course, is going to be the leader of each of the factions. And, you know, they're the ones who direct each faction's agenda, set the policies, and directs them and assign the operations. And because this is a political society, not only is it a society, but it's an organization, just like when it comes to a royal court, it's easier to manage the faction if you have somebody with you. So, with that being said, the responsibilities of the White King are also the same responsibilities that the White Queen has, and vice versa when it comes to the Black Court. So, instead of just choosing our White King right now, we are also going to go ahead and choose our White Queen. And the persons I have chosen to make our White King and our White Queen, our King is going to be Norman Osborn, and the Queen is going to be Valentina DeLay Fontaine. Um, yeah. So while I have never seen Valentina in a comic, this is definitely what she does within the MCU. And when it comes to Norman Osborn, if you have been watching my previous videos, or at least the ones I have made this year, do y'all remember when I said I had a better place in mind for Norman? Yeah, this is the better place. Because while Norman is iconic as the Green Goblin, I think his role as just, a political powerhouse and the position he had in the Dark Reign era of Marvel is highly underrated. Not, yeah, it's highly underrated. People don't talk about it enough. I think it deserves more love because he was amazing. But the reason I chose Valentina and Norman is because of the fact that they're two of the most morally ubiquitous and high profile political influencers within Marvel that are good at running people, or at least they enjoy controlling people. And when I say that they're good at running people, I don't mean like they're good leaders. I should make them a boss at a corporation and the job is going to be a great job. No, I don't mean like that. I mean that they are good at controlling and demanding and running people in the way that you expect a villain or a high political influencer who is morally ubiquitous would. And with that being said, you know, you also got to think about the point of the fact that these are people who will most definitely stab each other in the back. And I could definitely see them trying to rise in power, at least to the point of being the Lord Imperial. I don't know if Valentina would. I mean, it's a possibility, but I could definitely see Norman Osborn trying to take over what the Kingpin is doing. Because one thing I really loved about Norman within Dark Reign era of Marvel, or within like the Ultimate Comics, the first original Ultimate Comics, is the fact that he is a person who is just an egomaniac. He's an egotistical maniac. And when it comes to him, his ego is one of his, I think it's one of his greatest character traits, but it's also one of his flaws. But in the same time, when you look at that Valentina, her hubris is her downfall as well. But at the same time, when you're looking at a political power organization like this in a highfalutin society, of course, those are beneficial. So with that being said, I think that'll be good. Like I said, when they're good at controlling people, they're people who will definitely set up different organizations, hire different people, fire different people. They know how to manage the companies in a way where they can get the most done or where they can try to have the most gain. So I think that's one reason why I want to choose Valentina and Norman. Um, Another reason is because of the fact that Norman is a political and corporate manipulator. And through that, he owns different accesses to the media and weapon contracts that will shape the Western side of the world. Like, look at what he did with Shield, where he turned it into Hammer, and how he was able to direct and control with Thunderbolts before that. Then he created the Dark Avengers. And, usually when it comes to Spider-Man, he has Oscorp. He's responsible for creating like genetic experiments and everything. And when he was on the Dark Avengers, he put out the list to attack the Avengers, the X-Men, and to get rid of a lot of superheroes. So he's a person who I definitely could see working along well with the Kingpin, or at least under the Kingpin. And also, because of his manipulation tactics, not only is he a genius, he's an industrial titan, so he could definitely support the team with his scheming and his financial backings and everything. Now, when it comes to Valentina, like I said, Valentina, I've never really seen her in the comic. I mean, I've seen her in like probably one issue, when I was reading Secret Invasion. I didn't read the whole like event, like I didn't read the times and everything. But when I read the main Secret Invasion comic, I know that she was in there. But when you see her within the MCU, this is something she definitely does. Like when she was in charge of pulling together and controlling the different assassins like Yelena or John Walker, and like being in part of the CIA to try to take over Wakanda's vibranium. We also know that her political or her genius level thinking was a part of creating the Sentry, and that she, well, how do I say this? While she was figured out, there we go. While she was figured out within the MCU, we also know that she was really good at cleaning up her messes. And when it wasn't her cleaning it up, she was able to at least hide her messes to make it seem like she was a legitimate acquisitioner. And she was able to like put together different teams and resources. She always had backup plans. The thing that also makes her different from Norman in a way is that while Norman isn't really much of a spy, he has to order and hire people. Valentina is a spy, and she handles the different infiltration backings of the world agencies and political leverage through her different relationships. So, with that being said, she can definitely hire the people, while Norman is responsible for probably hiring and controlling the economical and industrial parts of the faction. She could be responsible for leading or being part of putting together the espionage parts of the industry. And through her, she also has access to different intelligence agencies and networking. And through that, she can help balance Norman's logic with her forms of seduction and manipulation. So, like I said, I think making Valentina our White Queen and Norman the White King would be a perfect fitting. Moving on to the role of the bishop, we were looking for somebody who was adequate enough to handle anything or everything that deals with influence. And what I mean by that is we're looking for someone who is adequate enough to be our main influencer in terms of spreading the work or the control of what the club is doing. So while we're looking for someone who will be our main influencer, we're looking for somebody who's adequate enough to basically handle things such as lobbying, bribery, propaganda, blackmails, and the media control. So for our bishop, I chose to go with Mystique. And here's why, right? First of all, let me first say if the volume or the sound thing of my video is switching up, as I can probably tell, I am making this on a day where I am not feeling my best vocally. And I had a little bit of a tech problem, so I had to use one part of my segment over the tab and a small part over the phone. But it seems that it's still clear outside of the different quality. I'm not going to really just, continue to erase and record and all of that. So as long as it's clear, I'm going to keep going. But yeah, between the two different type of devices I was using and the way I'm feeling, it may be a little bit of different quality over the video. But that's neither here nor there. The reason I decided to go with Mystique is because Mystique is one of my favorite characters when it comes to the Marvel Universe, right? One of my favorite females within the world of comics in general. But she has such a particular aesthetic to her, not physically, but mentally and morally and everything, that I did not know where to put her. Because while she is a mutant, and I love my mutants, and I'm making X-Men teams and stuff, She's a mutant who doesn't really aside herself with any one particular type of idea. Like, she's not morally upright to be on the X-Men or any team like that. And she's not all about down with the humans like some other mutant groups are. She's like right there in the middle where I could have put her on the Thunderbolts or I could have put her on like a team like that. But like I said, since I already made the Thunderbolts and the Secret Avengers teams, I don't want to keep making teams that have the same dynamic to them because then it would just be redundant, right? Mystique is a character who is really more all about her, but while she's a mutant or a character who is more worried about what she can gain and how it can evolve or be beneficial to her, her goals are more about if it's about me, cool. But if it ends up helping somebody else, then fine, right? So I was really having trouble deciding where to put her. Because, like I said, I am planning on making a different type of inner circle where it is just mutant exclusive, right? And then there was other characters I definitely could have used for the role of the bishop for this team. But the reason I'm gonna go with Mystique, outside of me really wanting to use her somewhere and making sure that I actually did use her somewhere, is because of the fact that she is a shapeshifter. Not only is she a shapeshifter, she's a shapeshifter who's a spy. Not only is she a shapeshifter who is a spy, she's a shapeshifter who is a spy and an actress. Not only is she a shapeshifter who is a spy and an actress, she's a shapeshifter who is a spy and an actress and is old. And when I say old, no one knows exactly how old Mystique is. She may be as old as Wolverine, or she may be older than Wolverine. So not only is she a spy who's an actress and a shapeshifter and who has age to her, she's a spy who has age to her and is an actress and a shapeshifter who is an assassin. And with all of those different aspects of her character being taken into account, she is someone who is definitely a good fit for a role like this because of how much things she can contribute to and how many different things she has going on with her. Like, for instance, because of her age, she has been around long enough to know all the different ways in which are the most effective for the influence of the Hellfire Club to be spreaded. She has the most effective manner of gathering intel throughout the ages and spreading it along through the different levels of society. And through her shapeshifting, she can easily, and I mean easily, infiltrate places and impersonate people and even blackmail people because of the fact that as she shapeshifts into other people, she can rewrite their narrative and destroy their reputation, which will help bring down the downfall of certain people and certain cooperations. Because you gotta think about it. Not only can she shapeshift her physical appearance, but she can shapeshift certain parts of her appearance. She could shapeshift her eyes, she could change the sound of her voice, and so much more. So that's where the acting and stuff comes in. But on top of that, she does the perfect fitting of, having her presence give the Hellfire Club any type of invisible reach into any system or nation. And because of how flexible she is, she fits perfectly along with the whole I'll stab you in the back dynamic while still being reliable. So I'm choosing Mystique to be our white bishop, which means the only part we have left to recruit is the white Rooks and the white knight. Now, when it comes to the white knight, We are looking for someone who basically, how do I say this? We're looking for someone who is the faction's sword, who is basically their enforcer, the person who handles their executions and everything. We're looking for a person who can lead the operations and enforce the policy and basically is their chosen champion, right? So for the faction of the White Court, I decided to choose the Silver Samurai. And even though the Silver Samurai, just like Mystique, is a mutant, I feel like he's a mutant who has more of an influence within the entire world as a whole instead of just being mutant centric. So that's one reason I chose him. But another reason I decided to go with the Silver Samurai is because of the fact that not only is he tactical and professional, but he has a sense of pragmatism that is unflinching. Plus, he is one of the most loyal people you will find within this club. Whether we're talking about the black court or the white court or whatever the case may be. Or I would say even one of the most honorable people and characters within the Marvel Universe, if not at least one of the most loyal members within the villain side of the Marvel Universe, due to his code of honor. You know, not only is he Japanese, but he's a samurai. Samurais and Japanese people have a strict code of honor. So when it comes to like turning on you or whatever, it's something they will do possibly, but not likely. And even if they do it, they're going to have a hard time deciding if they should do it or not. But at the same time, because of his position in the Yakuza clan, is it the Yakuza clan? What clan is it? Whatever clan he is, and because of his, you know, level in society within Japan, I can also see him being a person who will try his best to raise up in the ranks to be someone who can take over the Hellfire Club. Maybe not the entire Hellfire Club in a way where he tries to replace Wilson Fisk, but maybe in a way where he could try to replace Mystique or even Norman Osborn. So that's one reason I'm choosing the Silver Samurai. On top of the fact that he's a character who I don't want to say isn't interesting. He's a character who I've had an interest in, but I really don't see often, and I really don't know that much about. So I would love to see him in practice more. Um, but on top of that, he can coordinate logistics and run operations because of him being the leader of a clan. He can either decide to be the executioner himself or send people out to do the job for him. But now think about it. It seems like he's a Japan-based character. Should he have been on the Black Court? Because the Black Court would have been the eastern side of the hemisphere. Should he have been on the Black Court? I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments. Is he good for the white court or is he better off in the black court? Like I said, I don't know that much about the Silver Samurai. So while he may be a Japanese based character, I don't know if he's actually like set within the Japan area or is he just Japanese within like his culture and everything. Because what I do the black court, like I said, the black court is going to be the side of the world where we take care of the Eastern Hemisphere. But I'm also debating if we should do it like where it's not only the eastern side of the world, but they also handle this part of the courts that are more supernatural or mysticism tied. I don't know. But I know for sure they're definitely going to be the eastern side of the court. But y'all let me know, like I said, should he have been on the eastern side of the court in a way where he is strictly set in Japan, or is he just like Japan and Japanese based in character for over here? And even if he isn't just, and even if you don't tell me based off of the whole cultural and geographical aspects of his character, do you think like if I should do the Eastern and Western side combined with the normal political and economic side and the supernatural side, does he still fit better here? or does he fit better with the mysticism and supernatural side of the court that we may or may not do? But y'all let me know. With that being said, like I said, the Silver Samurai is going to be our White Knight. Now, for the role of the Rooks are the people who basically, how do I say this? The Rooks, okay, so there's usually only one Rook for each court, right? But the way I want to do my Rooks is a way where I think it will be more effective or at least better organized. And that's because the Rook is the person who usually is in charge of the infrastructure and defense. And it's the person who usually is responsible for managing all the little side parts of the court in which helps the club run more effectively and smoothly, like the intelligence and their technology usage and the weapons. And they're also responsible for helping place the different pawns that the court uses. And when it comes to a society like this, the pawns are, of course, the soldiers and stuff that they would use on the field. So the way I want to do my Rooks is while there's usually one person who oversees all of that, I think it would be better if we put it in a way where it's more manageable. So we have one head Rook who oversees all of it, but the head Rook hires like two Rooks under them to be in charge of each particular designation. So we'll have one Rook be the head Rook, but the sub Rooks will be the ones who are like, one will be in charge of the technology and intelligence, and the other ones will be in charge of the field troops and stuff. So for the head Rook I'm gonna go with is the Silver Sable. Now, let me get this out of the way right now. If anything that I am about to say sounds familiar due to what I have said about our White Knight, which was for the Silver Samurai, it's because that when I did my notes and while I'm recording and looking at my notes, of course you would know that the Rook goes under the Knight. And seeing that Silver Sable and the Silver Samurai have the first name of being silver in the double alliteration thing, I was looking at the wrong part for when I was talking about the White Knight. I was looking at Silver Sable's information instead of the Silver Samurai. So when it comes to the Silver Samurai, just know that everything I said technically still aligns and matches up to his character. The questions I still ask, I still want y'all to answer. But a little bit of differentiation is going to be that while I was talking about how the Silver Samurai is pragmatic and everything, I was really talking about the Silver Sable because she is a person who I have always seen double think or question her actions, or at least her ultimatums when they come to her. Now, I don't know much about the Silver Sable, just like I don't know much about the Silver Samurai, because while I am a fan and, I am an advocate for bringing more of a spotlight to all of my fictional female characters, Silver Sable is more of a Spider-Man based type of character. And seeing as how I haven't really gotten into the Spider-Man Peter Parker mythos until what, probably about a year ago, I wouldn't know that much about her. But from what I do know about her, I know that if I am thinking about the right person, she has been in charge of like leading different types of units. And I think she's been in charge of like she's ran her own country or something like that. So just taking that into consideration makes her good for leading a group or whatever. But she's also a mercenary. And through her mercenary skills, that makes her adequate enough to be a fighter or at least a weapon user in the way in which she can, oversee all the tactical and logistical side of the operations and coordinate PMC forces, handle transport and stuff like that. She could be the person who handles operation deployment, and through her being a mercenary and a commander, she's able to supervise both of the fields in a way where she doesn't need to be there directly. And if you want to know what type of units she has controlled, I think her team name has been like the Wild Pack or something. But even if you take that away from her, I think because of her father being like a crime lord or something, or being a Nazi hunter, she has been in charge or been a part of his plans, and where she had to be a part of making plans or being part of his enforcement units in which he handled certain things that he was involved in. So I think that makes her the perfect person to be our head rook. Now, when it comes back to talk about the Silver Samurai, like I said, everything I said about him, all the questions and stuff still stand. But what I was talking about the Silver Sable being more pragmatic, what I meant for the Silver Samurai is that he is a person who represents discipline and martial prestige. And he can lead high visibility missions in corporate warfare and act as the public facing part of the Hellfire's might. So, like I said, everything still adds up about what I said about him. And the questions still add up. I still want to know what y'all think. Should he be a person who's better off on the Western Court or the Eastern Court? But anyway it goes, I feel like he could be a bridge between the two, in which he can connect the Western side of the world's modern ambition to the Eastern side's traditional ambition. So, yeah, but now that we have gotten that cleared up, now we can move on to the Yafruk. And when it comes to the Yafruk is someone who I'm not going to get mixed up because, first, there's a different name and a different alliteration. Secondly, it's because we're talking about the field commandment and field handlings of the court. And the last important reason we are not going to mix this up is because we are going to be talking about a character who I do know more intimately within the Marvel Universe. And she is a character who's one of my female favorite characters within the Marvel Universe, one of my female favorite villains, one of my female favorite characters, maybe in all of comics. And that's because she's usually tied to the world of the mutants, even though I don't know if she's technically a mutant herself or not. And when I say that she's usually tied to the world of the mutants, you would usually see her within an X-Men based story. And usually the story is considered to be an X-23 Laura Kinney story. And that is the character of Kimura. Now, while I understand that the process of bioengineering a sentient life form just to raise her up, knock her down, and torture her and experiment on her to the point of perfection is morally wrong. It's bad, it's torturous, and all of that. I love the character of Kimura. Now, Kimura is the perfect fit here. While she could have been a knight, sure, I think being here as the Alpha Rook is perfect because not only has she been seen working for and under characters like Wilson Fisk, and when I say characters like Wilson Fisk, I mean there has been stories where she has been directly reporting to and working for the Kingpin. She is a character who was bioengineered to either, what was it, not feel pain or to not be destroyed. Like she was literally built to be a perfect killing machine, the perfect weapon. Like you can't hurt her or you can't destroy her. Then if you're having a person like that, then how do you think all of that training or all of that pain will go towards her? She doesn't seem to be a character who has any form of empathy or compassion, which means she's turning that inwards and channeling that strength into her executions and stuff. And if you're talking about a person who was trained and stuff and made to be the perfect killing machine who can't feel pain or who can't be destroyed, then of course, when you're talking about a person who's training units under her, she's gonna be working her units and her troops in a way where they can be the perfect weapon as well. Even though they may not have her skill or her power, she's gonna be training them just as hard, just so, hey, you may not be like me, but this is what we're gonna do. I mean, that's how she handled X-23 because she was X-23's handler and she was responsible for training X-23. And X-23 is capable and one of the greatest mutant fighters, one of the greatest assassins within the Marvel Universe. So I think having Kimura be our field rook or the person who's in charge of training the units and being responsible for the security of the club in the court when they're making public appearances and stuff is amazing for her. And Kimura is one of the people within the Marvel Universe who I say is fearful as hell when it comes to the mutant side of things. People are terrified of her. And with that fear factor that she carries and her ruthlessness and her skills and assassinations, she could be seen as the monster that the court sends out when diplomacy fails. Now, it could be argued that this will be a better role for the Silver Samurai, and that the Silver Samurai will be more effective and adequate as the Rook, seeing that, he leads a clan and everything, and because of his discipline and his leadership capabilities, while Gamora is better off as an enforcer and the person who is responsible for taking care of their issues directly, because she, I'm not going to say she's not a good leader. She's been known to lead units and train them, yeah, but that would be more of what the Silver Samurai does. But like I said, in a way, I could see all the pawns or the soldiers, goons, whatever you want to call them, of the Hellfire Club being trained by Kimura in a way in which they will be more adequate and capable. So we're going to use Kimura as our Alpha Rook. But yeah, like I said, let me know within the comments if you think Kimura would have been better as the White Knight, or is she a good fit for the Alpha Rook, or if I should have switched her positioning with the Silver Samurai. But that means we only have one more position. Well, technically we have two, but when it comes to the structural positionings of the court, we only have one more position to fill, and that's the role of our Beta Rook. And the Beta Rook is going to be the person who is in charge of creating and handling the weapon side of logistics and information and technology and stuff. And for this court, I decided to go with Justin Hammer. Now, within the world of comics, Justin Hammer is technically an old guy. I don't really care for that. I prefer the Justin Hammer that was in the Iron Man 2 movie. And if you ended up watching the Avengers Assemble TV show series, they kind of took that idea of Sam Rockwell and created him into more of a fun, kind of younger character. But anyway it goes, I think Justin Hammer is a good fit for this. One, because if you want to take his role from Avengers Assemble, he was trying to get on teams such as this. It wasn't the Hellfire Club. It was the Avengers Assemble's version of the Cabal, in which he tried to get on a team like this. And we know that not only is he rich, but he's, I don't want to say he's not a genius, but I don't want to say he is one. We know he's not as smart as Tony Stark, but we know that he is responsible for creating weapons and gathering intel on how those weapons will be fit for taking certain people down. So the reason I'm choosing Justin Hammer is because of that. But we're also going to choose Justin Hammer because of his access to funds and stuff, in which the weapon side and technological side of things would be handled more effectively. And we all know that one of the main goals that Wilson Fisk and or Norman Osborn would have as just being petty or as a part of their planning and influencing the world is to override or get rid of all the competitive type of industries and organizations that they have within the Marvel Universe that will be helpful or seem to be a threat to them. And most likely, one of those will be either Stark Industries or Pym Industries or Shield. And what's the better way to get rid of them than by recruiting and having Stark's number one competitor within your hold? So, like I said, for the beta rook, we are going to choose Justin Hammer. So, yeah, you guys, those are the members that I have recruited for the White Court. For my White King, I have chosen to go with Norman Osborn. For the White Queen, I have decided to go with Valentina DeLay Fontaine. For our White Bishop, I have decided to go with Mystique. For the White Knight, I have decided to go with the Silver Samurai. For the head rook, I decided to go with the Silver Sable. For our alpha rook, I decided to go with Kimura. And for our beta rook, I have decided to go with Justin Hammer. Now, remember how I said a little while ago there was actually two more members to fulfill, even though there was only technically one more position within the Hellfire Club that needed filling? Well, that's because I wanted to get like an envoy or like an emissary that could be used for the court, and where the emissary or envoy or whatever you want to call them will be responsible for basically being the liaison between the two courts and managing the communications and the secret diplomacies and passing on the different agendas and stuff between the kings and queens. Um, that's not an official role that the court has, but I feel like it would be an easier way to handle things, especially when you may have the two courts working with each other, but at the same time kind of clashing. And for our emissary slash envoy, whatever term you prefer, I wanted to go with James Wesley, I believe his name is, the right hand man to Kingpin. And like I said, wow, that makes the most sense because he's the right hand man to Kingpin. This is usually what he does. I felt like I didn't need to say it, but I'm going to say it because he is a character that I like. And I feel like this is one of the characters that I really like within the Kingpin circle, because when it comes to the Kingpin circle, most of the people he works with, he ends up either killing because he's disappointed in them. But no matter how many times you look at a story with the Kingpin involved, Wesley is one of his right hand men who's always in the corner. No matter what the Kingpin does or no matter what Wesley does, they can always count on each other's back. And I feel like that's because there's a sense of true loyalty there. Everybody else has a sense of fear within the Kingpin, but there's like a true connection and sense of loyalty between Wesley and the Kingpin. So while it may not have been needed to be said, our envoy is going to be Wesley, and he's going to keep the communications between Fisk and the branches of the different courts. He's going to be the one who basically is their linking bridge and ensures everything moves in harmony. Because we all know that Fisk doesn't really talk to lower people. So, yeah. But yeah, you guys, let me know how you feel about my court. What was your favorite iteration of the Hellfire Club within the Marvel Universe? Who has been your favorite White Court members? What do you think about my White Court members? Would you have chosen different members, would you have put them on the black court instead? Who is your entire court made out of? And don't forget to answer the questions about the Silver Samurai. Do you think he would have been better here or the Eastern Hemisphere? And do you think he would have been a better Afro or is Kimura the better Afro? But yeah, guys, those are my Hellfire Club members for the White Court. In a couple videos, I'll be doing a Black Court, which will correlate with the eastern side of the hemisphere. And don't forget to answer that question either. Do you think I should do the whole eastern side of the hemisphere also is the side of the court that deals with the spiritual and the mysticism and supernatural side of the Marvel Universe? Or just choose members that are a part of the eastern hemisphere? And let me know if there is actually a gray court or was there just a gray king. I'm going to do some information about it, but let me know just in case I don't do it in time or in case I forget to do it or if I miss something. And let me know if you guys want me to do a red court because like I said, the red court really isn't something that is that prominent within the Hellfire Club. It was just introduced for the trading aspects of the Krakoran drug system. But let me know if you want me to do it, and we'll find a way to do it. But until then, you guys know what it is. I'm going to catch you guys later. Deuces.